Welcome to this virtual career speaker series session that's celebrating Women's History Month. This presentation features the environmental protection profession. We want to welcome our guest speaker, Cindy Shalinga, who is a senior environmental health and safety delivery specialist at Seagrift Operations for the Dow Chemical Company. She also supports F-Plant at the former DuPont site near Victoria. Ms. Shalinga will explain more about her role in keeping these facilities surface and groundwater clean. Ms. Shalinga was born and raised in Victoria and only left long enough to attend college. So besides working full-time, she keeps up with 5 kids, 3 of whom she and her husband blessed through adoption. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to you, Ms. Shalinga.
Okay, well, good afternoon. I will be talking about my career at Seagrift Dow and how I got here. And as you can see on the screen, I have some logos. We have a can-do attitude. It's one of our mottos for Seagrift site. And then for my environmental health and safety and security department that I work under, we are the, I think it's the Fighting Owls. So that's just kind of our logo that we have. We kind of have some fun with some of the stuff we do here. So just to kind of give a quick overview of Dow, it's, what is Dow? What kind of company we are, to kind of give a little bit of background. So we are a very large company. We have sites in 31 different countries. Which includes 106 manufacturing sites. And we hire about 35,000 plus employees on a global level. And just in 2020, we made over $39 billion worth of sales. So of course, in the chemical industry, the main goal is to make money. And so we are a very successful company at doing that. But along with just the environmental, the sales too, Dow has a very high standards when it comes to environmental and safety regulations. So besides making money, they want to make sure their employees and the environment are always safe. So here's just a quick snapshot of the continents, just to kind of see where we exist. It's kind of a pretty cool idea. Like I said, I'm local Texas, Victoria area. With my time in life, I want to stay in the Victoria area, but in the next 10 years, I wouldn't mind doing some travel. So working with a company like Dow, you could travel and work on different things at different sites. So that's kind of a neat idea of having the opportunity to do that. Just alone in Texas, we have 9 different sites. Some of these sites are strictly like more of an office type setting. The Houston Hub and the Houston Dow Center, those are more of a office type setting, but then all the other locations are actually where we have a chemical plant where we're actually making product. And of course, like me with my group, we actually are stationed in the Seagrift site. And then I also support the Victoria site, which is the F unit site. So just a little story. How did I get to where I'm at today? So going back 20 plus years ago, when I graduated high school, I always knew I wanted to do environmental work. I've loved science. That's always been my passion. Originally, I was going to A&M Galveston. I was accepted. I was making my way there, and then I met my future husband. And plans changed. At the time, he was not one to be for college. He's like, I'm going to do a 2-year trade school, and I'm done. I'm like, fine, I'll follow you. Little did I know what TSTC offered. He had chosen to go to TSTC in Waco, and they offer such a variety of programs that I never would even thought to, because I had it drilled into me, go to college, 4-year degree, that's what you have to do. And when I remember looking and researching what programs they offered and found that they had an environmental health and safety program. So I got all of my documentation together and I went home, because by this time I was supposed to be going to A&M. I went to my parents and I had to persuade them why I should go to TSTC, even though they knew it was because I was following my, at the time, boyfriend. But I persuaded them on why TSTC was a good college and et cetera, and how that would just be a stepping stone. And that's exactly what I did. I went into their environmental health and safety program, got an associate's degree in 1999. So little over, probably really little less than 2 years, I got my associate's degree. In the meantime, my husband and I got married. So it wasn't a wasted detour. We got married. Ironically, he's the one who wanted to go to TSTC for a trade school. And then he decided one semester out of graduating that, you know what, I'm going back to the 4-year university. So we came back home. He completed his, or not really completed, he started working on his 4-year degree. He became a teacher. And while I got into the job field, I worked for city, county government for almost 12 years. It was my very first job. And during that time, I had my first child in 2001. And then I decided, you know what, it's time for me to go back to college and get my 4-year degree, because I knew sooner or later it would benefit me if I wanted to advance my career. So I started going to UHV, and then had my second child, but I wasn't going to stop. I actually was in labor with her during my last semester, and I was doing online classes and actually submitting documents or submitting homework assignments right before I went into labor, because I had one teacher who was like, oh, if you're in labor, I'll exempt you from being late. And one teacher was like, nope, I don't care what the excuse is, you better turn your assignments in. So I remember submitting my assignments and then going to the hospital and having her. And then it happened to be spring break, so it worked out. I had some time off. Then over the next 4 years, or sorry, the next 8 years, I had 4 different types of environmental jobs. I moved to 2 more city, county government jobs, and then I crossed over to private industry. I love the public industry side of things. I loved working with the people, but just like any governmental work, city work, the pay is not always there. And pay wasn't important to me. I mean, that was fine. I was happy we were able to provide for our family, but the benefits that going to private industry offered, it gave me so many more career choices. I was able to expand my knowledge in environmental work, and it probably really felt like I was doing more of environmental work than I had been prior. Even though it was all environmental, I felt like, I guess, I was making more of a difference. So over that 20 years, it shaped me to where I'm at now. And then, of course, in the middle of that time, we also did the foster and adoption of 3 additional kids. So we're up to, that makes the number 5. So they keep us busy. Through all of these jobs, I've been able to do a work-life balance. I've been able to have the kids. I've been able to go to college. I've been able to be at school functions. All of my jobs have been flexible on doing that, and that's really been important. When I came to Dow, one of the very first things I researched was, will you be flexible if I need to be home for the kids, or do I need to if I have to take off, can you be flexible, and what's your sick leave policy? Because that's important when it comes to family. And they have been totally supportive. They even allow us to work from home on certain days of the week if we need to work from home, if be home for, the plumber to come out to the house or whatever. So 2 years ago, I did start at Dow. I'm basically doing the exact same job I did prior 6 years, but I worked for another chemical plant, local plant, but moved on to Dow. And so that's where I'm at now. Let me see where I'm at my presentation. I'm excited about being at Dow. Let me go to my next slide. So I think in a minute I have a slide on what I do on a daily basis, but what I want to do is stress is on the trade school type of things. Is trade school is very important. I really think that I have pushed one child, and then I have a second one going into potentially to an associate's degree program too in the medical field. We have always been one to push on the trade school associate programs, because they can get you in and out of school quickly, and you can make really decent money. I have a son that graduated from TSTC also as a diesel mechanic, and he is making more than what I made with 10 years experience with a 4-year degree. So it kind of puts you in perspective on how important your trade schools and your associate programs are. So one thing Dow offers, which I think is an awesome program, is the apprenticeship program. Basically, you apply for this position. It's recent high school graduates, and it also could be, like I say, recent, probably in the like last 4 years or so. We've even had people who changed careers and applied for this program. But basically, Dow is sending you to go to college for a 2-year associate's degree, and they're paying you while you go to college. You're making a 40-hour paycheck. I believe it's like something to the effect of 30 hours in college, or sorry, 20 hours in college, 10 hours studying, and 10 hours at the plant to get your hands-on experience. And then you have to guarantee to work for them for 2 years when you graduate with your college degree. And you can see there's some different positions they have. You could be a like an operator who actually makes the product. You can be an instrument technician, your I&E guys who calibrate equipment and troubleshoot equipment. They've added the electrical program, and we even have lab technicians too. So this is a really awesome program. I've known many people, actually many of my son's friends who have gone through this program. And then they've even, once they've done this associate program, Dow's paid for them to finish their 4-year degree while they're working at the plant. So I've had a couple of his friends that have finished this program, maybe even moved on. So it's a really awesome experience to take advantage of the trade schools. So what does a life of an EHS specialist look like? So my official title is, which I never know what it is because I don't call myself this, but it's Senior EH&S Delivery Specialist. I just usually call me a water specialist. I just shorten it because that's exactly what I do. My focus is on water. Some of my responsibilities are I manage and make sure we're in compliance of what is called a wastewater permit. So any person or any industry that is going to pull water out of like like say the Guadalupe River, for example, and they have to discharge water back because they take it out, they normally discharge it back. They have to make sure that that water is safe. That's what our permit requires us to do. So it gives us guidelines on what has to, how clean that water has to be, what levels of certain contaminants, like what the pH limits are, what, how much, just certain parameters in each of the water. Usually, in most cases, our water is cleaner than what we brought out of the Guadalupe River because we bring it out of the Guadalupe River and we put it back. So normally it is way cleaner than what it was when we took it out of the river. Also, I do stormwater management. So when we have storms that come through, or we have hurricanes or anything like that that could cause, or even like say if we happen to respond to a fire and we have excess water surging our site due to us doing fire control or something, even though that normally doesn't happen, but you never know when you have to get the fire trucks out there and help protect if there is a chemical release or something. There's different firefighting things that happen that if we have an extra surge of water, we're having to protect our storm sewers because we don't want that any contaminated water going back out into the environment. We want to make sure that stays clean. I also handle spill prevention and control and countermeasures, which is long for SPCC. Basically, what that is oil. It's containing our oil, any type of oil, to make sure we don't have any major spills. Or even minor spills, because it's amazing how little oil it takes to cause a sheen on water, and we don't want to affect the environment. I also work on projects, any projects that could deal with Corps of Engineers, with construction. We actually, even with COVID, our site has, since I've been on site, we're on our second new unit that's getting built. One was in the process of getting built when I came on board, and we're actually working on one in the next 2 to 3 years. We're going to have a whole nother unit built, and that's really a great opportunity because a lot of times you don't see companies growing like that. So we are still growing. So why is my job important? So when you think of water compliance, what do you think of? What does fishable and swimmable waters mean to you? So when I know probably you enjoy spending time out in the environment, do you like to go swimming? Do you like to fish? If you do, would you like to see waters like this or waters like this? What does drinkable water mean to you? Would you rather have a clear glass, sparkling cold water, or water like this? So what does water compliance mean to you? So this is my job. Basically, in a nutshell, this is my job, is making sure that we're compliant, to make sure that y'all have still clean water. And I have clean water, because I want me and my family to go down to the beach at Port Connor, which is 20 minutes away from my site. I want to be able to go there and enjoy the beach and go find hermit crabs with my kids. If we don't take care of our environment, we won't get that. So basically, my job is compliance with environmental laws. The Clean Water Act is the federal regulation that ensures everything that what I do here and what our site does here is that we're in compliance with. The goal of the Clean Water Act is to provide fishable and swimmable waters, and to eliminate the discharge of pollutants from point sources. EPA, which I'm sure y'all have heard of EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and then TCQ, which is the state level of EPA. It's Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They establish regulations to meet the Clean Water Act. So TCQ enforces what the federal government says to do, but on a state level. TCQ is the one who issues my wastewater permit, that tells me what kind of water I can discharge. And then I have to report on a monthly basis, semi-annual basis, and even quarterly basis what our results are. I have to take samples, and I say the site has to take samples. We have to ensure that we're in compliance with these parameters, and we have to submit those to the state. And then usually periodically the state will come out, usually once every year and a half or so, they come out and audit our program, and they want to see our records. They want us to drive them around. They want us to show them, how are we in compliance with these regulations. And if we happen to report any type of scenarios, there have been times like during the freeze, for example, maybe we couldn't get out to take a sample because of the weather conditions. Well, we had to report that we missed a sample. So they'll ask more questions when they come and do their audit. So here is a Google Earth picture of Dow's outfalls. So the outfalls are my permanent locations that I can discharge water to. So if you can kind of see the Google Earth, you see all the little gold stars all over the place. I believe we have like 14 to 15 outfalls. Some of those stars represent more than one outfall. There could be 3 or 4 in that general area. So I just kind of put a gold star where their main locations are. We're required to take samples at each of these outfalls, making sure the water is clean. Some of these outfalls strictly are stormwater, so really all it is going to be runoff from those areas. You can see we cover a lot of large site we have many acres. A lot of this is farmland. It's not all industry, but we still have to do some sampling that are in that drainage, that area. We even have to sample some of the locations that drain the highways and stuff, but it's still one of our requirements we have to make sure we meet and in compliance. I'm going to show you two close-up pictures on the next slide of 2 of our outfalls. These are our main outfalls. On the smaller picture is what's called our 002 outfall. This is mainly stormwater, with a little bit of other type of streams that can go there that we're permitted to send that way. If we send something there that shouldn't be, then I'm on the phone with TCQ saying, hey, we had an incident. This is what happened, and we send the report into them. That doesn't happen very often, but just like in any type of industry, accidents can happen, releases can happen, and we just have to report it and we clean it up. But that's one of the outfalls that we're sampling at that location. And then at the large picture on the left is what's called our combined outfall, and this is actually where we have 4 streams come together. And as you can see, in most situations, 99.9% of the time, it looks like this. It's clean, it's pretty looking. I mean, there's times where this area is flooded because it's in a low spot and we get lots of rain on site and it can affect it. But we take very much pride in keeping all these outfalls clean and making sure we're discharging clean water. Any questions?
I don't see any so far. So far, very good detailed information. Let's see, let me look and see if some have come in. Yes, can you tell us a little bit more, especially since you're in a profession that is regulated? Oh, do you have continuing education requirements?
For my position specifically, well, Dow always does training. We do a lot of internal training. With having the multiple sites across the Texas and even Louisiana and things like that, we have counterparts at all of our different sites. So we try to get together. We may do monthly, we may do yearly. We do different brainstorming activities to make sure that we're aligned together and that we learn from each other, because it never fails. If I'm having an issue or a question pops up, I'm sure another site has dealt with it, even though our site is very unique in itself. But like I personally, I have with my prior jobs, I actually have licenses to run and operate drinking water system and a wastewater system. It's not required for my current job, but Dow allows me to keep those licenses, and they send me the continuing education to maintain those licenses. So specifically for this job, no, there's really no CEUs. There's nothing that's required besides just internal Dow training that we have to make sure we meet. For like example, I mentioned the SPCC, the oil. There's an annual training that every employee on site has to go through. So we have an online training session they have to do. Same with stormwater, the stormwater drainage system, to make sure we protect our drains and stuff and our stormwater. There's an annual training they're having to take. So there's those types of trainings, but specifically CEUs for my position. If I didn't hold those licenses, I wouldn't have CEUs.
In addition to all the technical knowledge someone in this position has to have, can you tell us a little bit more about interpersonal skills that are good to use when you're on the job?
Yeah, that's probably, I would have to almost say how you interact with people is probably almost more important than your degree, your education, because I mean, the companies want to see that you have a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, that you had the ability to learn and grow, but also working with the team, because a lot of times you are working in a team setting. You have to come together with a whole bunch of different people who have different backgrounds and even education background. So I may specialize in the drinking water side of things, but someone else may specialize in an engineering type field. And when I bring up a concern that I'm having, hey, we're having issues meeting this perimeter, or, something's acting weird. How can we fix it? I have to be able to communicate that with the engineer so they can figure out a better way to fix the scenario. One thing we do is, like right now, I'm on a huge project to ensure that we don't release any type of plastics to our environment. I've already been working on it 2 years. We're probably 2 years out still on that project. I mean, I'm working with engineers, from someone who's doing drainage, someone who's a mechanical, electrical engineer. I'm working with someone who just specializes in the concept of hydraulics. And then I even have we have legal counsel on board going, okay, legally we can do X, Y, and Z. So you have to be able to communicate with those people via email, conference calls, Zoom meetings. It's amazing. We're dealing with people all around the United States for this one project for Seadrift right now. But how do you communicate, how you work with people is very important. Another thing too is environmental work. We don't make money. But we have to ensure compliance with our site, and our company agrees with that, and they that's number one. That's important to them. Safety and environment is important to them. But in the end, the bottom line is money talks, and they want to be able to make as much money as possible, but they want to also do it while they're in compliance with these regulations. So when I walk in the door and there's something going on that I have to tell them, "Oops, stop production. You're not in compliance with regulation," that doesn't sit very well sometimes, because yes, they want to be in compliance, they want to do what's right, but they also don't want to have to stop making money just to be in compliance. So we have to work very well with the units and the guys making the money and the product, so then they understand the urgency. Like, guys, if you aren't in compliance with these regulations, then we can ask you to stop producing, because if the state comes in and tells you to stop, it's not going to be just turning back on the switch tomorrow. It could be a couple of weeks, it could be, you know, extended length of time. So sometimes they see us as the police, but we're there to help them, keep them out of trouble, help them stay in compliance too. So
Can you tell us a little bit more about the physical requirements for this job and any special PPE that personal protective equipment that a person needs?
yeah, so really my job, like right now, I am in what's called FRC, flame retardant clothing, which if I'm gonna go out in the site in any of the units, I'm supposed to wear, also with steel toe boots. I have safety gloves. I have a hard hat. I have safety goggles, or glasses. But 90% of my job is inside a cubicle, is inside an office. I can come in usually tennis shoes and jeans and a t-shirt. I can be as casual as I want to. I can be dressed up, but it's more inside function. And I just keep these type of clothes in my locker. So if I need to go out in the field, I can go change. We have some guys that are in the field all the time, you know, just depending on your job role. Physical, really, there's not really a lot of physical attributes to my job. Dow's also really good about anyone with disabilities, they're going to work with you. So my type of job scenario could easily be something that someone with, you know, who can't be physically active or has maybe a disability can still do that type of job. Um, so physically there's not a lot, but there are times I can tell you, and I consider myself in shape. If I go out and help audit the units and check on them and, you know, see if I can help find any improvements, and we have to climb I say 3 flights of stairs up to the 3rd level. It's not a true flight of stairs. I think it's at least double what you would normally see, like at a, you know, your high school, if you have to go to the 2nd floor. You know, it's a pretty steep climb, and I don't know how those guys do it. I'm out of breath by the time I get to the 3rd floor. But I don't have to do it a lot. So, but yeah, so.
Good. And this hopefully is kind of a situation that's not prevalent much right now, but how did COVID impact your job, or are you still seeing some impacts from it?
Um, so COVID, I got hired and I was on site 1 month before we got sent to COVID seclusion. So I think I worked from home for about 9 months of my job. Luckily, my job was almost identical to what I used to work at another chemical plant down the road. So I was able to jump in and go with it, no big deal. I met a lot of people on the phone. I'm still now, it's ironic, 2 years later, I'm still finally meeting people in person. So we adapted really well. Now, I'm an environmental specialist, so the environmental techs that work under us, they had to come out probably about 3 times a week, periodically, just to check on the units, to walk around, to be there more in person. The specialist role, we still can get by with not being on site, but our lead supervisor of our group really wants us, since we're more of a service organization, they want us to be available. So when we are needed in the field, we can go. So not that we can't work from home still, we can some, and our supervisors are usually really flexible about, oh, you need, like tomorrow on Tuesdays I work from home, so you can work from home, that's fine. We can get I'm very effective at my job from home, because a lot of it is meetings, a lot of it's computer work. But if I don't go out in the field, I don't see some things either. So it's a healthy balance of both. Our company did come out with what's called Design Your Day. So some of the groups, what we call like maybe like a global position that supports multiple sites, they're working from home and they probably will never go back to an office setting. But since I actually support the site here, and then even the F unit, the Victoria site, I'm usually going to one of those 2 sites most of the time.
One last question that we have for you is, are there, as you look back over your education and your career in that, are there any classes that you wish you would have taken in high school?
Let me think. I mean, with my high school career, I actually took a lot of the advanced sciences, and I did anything extra I tried doing, because I've always loved the science. Um, and I worked for, I mean, I went to school for a smaller district. We didn't have a lot of, like right now, I mean, things have changed so much that I think they offer so, of course, your bigger schools offer more variety. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything. I mean, I think I was pretty set on, I mean, I set myself up to go to a 4-year degree. That's why when I switched to a 2-year degree, I never even thought of it. Um, so I was pretty prepared. I mean, I say I was because I even tried taking some classes at the junior college while I was still going into high school. And like I signed up for chemistry, and within a week, I'm like, this isn't for me. I jumped out real quick and went to intro to chem. So ironically, I did that fine, but when I went to the trade school, they offered, I had to take, I think, biochemistry. I'm like, I'm gonna do terrible, but I loved it. And I guess maybe just the different atmospheres and the hands-on type teaching that they teach at the trade school, it was just at a different level. I just, I mean, I don't know if there's really anything new or different I would have changed on that. I think just kind of like we talked, I was on a call or talk this morning with some high schoolers, and the big thing we told them is, you know, out of 6 of us, I think we all raised our hand how many y'all flunked out of a college class, or how many maybe just made a D and not a C in that class. And all of us raised our hand. I mean, some of those classes are no joke. Some of them, it took them 2 times to pass it with at least a C. One lady who's now in a global role for Dow, almost all of her engineering classes were C's. She's like, I was, you know, C equals CEO for me. That was her joke. So, but she's like, just keep pushing through, because sometimes you have to just take those classes to get that degree. And then when you get in the work field, they're going to train you. So probably 25% is, you know, what you learned in college, and then 75% is hands-on experience once you get your job.
I completely agree. I would have the same experience she had and y'all had going through school. And so that was all that we had as far as questions, Ms. Schillinga. I just really want to thank you again for an informative and inspiring presentation. Particularly, you know, how you spoke about matching the love you had of a certain subject and finding your passion in the education realm and also in your career. And also, thank you for sharing about being flexible, but also finding balance between your personal life and your family, your education calling, and your career goals. So again, thank you again for sharing your career journey and your other advice with our audience today. And to everyone else, we want to thank you all for watching, and make it a great day.